Welcome to Daughters of Divine Joy, the radio show for women who are tired of choosing between success and their sanity. Each week, we gather around this virtual table to talk about the things nobody else is saying out loud: how to lead without burning, how to set boundaries without guilt, how to honor your calling without sacrificing your soul. This is a sacred place for women who are done accepting chaos as normal and ready to claim the joy that's been their birthright all along. This is Daughters of Divine Joy. Welcome.
Hey, 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 how y'all doing today? It's so good to see you. It's so good to be back with you this week. It has been a long month this week, and I will say it like that. Yeah, it's been exciting. Life been life, and you know what? That's all right, because I have been trying to elevate my faith. And so when life starts lifing, I'm gonna just keep living and living my best life. And so that's what I've been trying to do. With all the challenges that come that way, I'm deciding that I'm living my best life. Anyway, and speaking of that, I wanted to talk to you today about something a little different. I'm going to not talk about joy or Sabbath or rest as resistance, but I want to talk about um, forming a theology, a personal theology for yourself that is about more than survival. Okay, we all know, Lord's going to make a way out of no way. We know that. There's some other scriptures that we may have heard our the elders and ancestors speaking, but I guess I've been in this place where I feel like, shouldn't our faith do a little bit more? Shouldn't we be at another spot now? Why are we still scratching and surviving? Um, to borrow a line from Good Times theme, I just feel like sometimes I need a little bit more. I want to feel like there is an experience of elevation that comes along, not just with the theology or the way I think about my faith and my spirituality, but to really live out the gospel in a way that elevates you, not just merely keeps you at a survival spot. I think survival is the floor of faith, but somehow or another, we have come to think of it as the ceiling. So walk with me, just hang with me a little while. I would love some responses. If you want to call in, that would be great. Um, but just imagine, I just imagine being in a place where um, you are doing greater things than what Christ was able to do. Okay. Greater things you shall do. And that scripture is something that always resonated with me because I'm always looking for the greater thing. What else can I do? How else can I elevate myself? And I have been around folks, and when I hear them talk about their relationship with God, I wonder why it's so small. I wonder why they have not asked for bigger or greater. And I'm not talking about things, I'm talking about capacity. I'm talking about um, an emergence of, how can I put this? I'm trying not to make. I don't want y'all calling me up telling me I'm talking devil or devil's crap, because that's not it. I'm just trying to expand my faith a little bit more so that I'm not thinking small and being small, and not only that, treating God as small. That's what I'm getting at. Sometimes we have been, we think humility is about us thinking small or being small. And that's not being humble, that's just being small. I think humility has more to do with understanding that you have been gifted, you have been favored with certain things in your life. And so, because of that, your humility comes that you know it's not because you are so special, but we have a special God that has given you this gift because God believed that God could trust you with the gift. God could trust you with it. And so, you're humbled by the opportunity and the responsibility that it holds. And so, as I've been thinking about this, I have thought that maybe it's time we stop wading in the water and start walking on water. That's a different kind of faith. And so, yeah, I remember I was doing some during COVID. I was doing some spiritual direction work with someone so that I could hold on to my faith because things were happening during COVID that were just extraordinary. Couldn't go out anywhere, couldn't do anything, couldn't go to work. People were dying. And I needed to make sense of some of those things. And so, one of the exercises that I was asked to engage in is to imagine myself as Peter in a storm and I see Jesus on the water. And the assignment was to get out. Imagine myself, you do a visualization. Imagine yourself at night in a storm, getting out of the boat and walking on water to Jesus. And what would that conversation have been like? And so I actually had that conversation in my mind as I'm doing the exercise, and it revealed a lot of things to me. Um, and one of the questions that I imagined Christ saying to me was, "Why was it so hard to get out the boat? What did you think was going to happen if you had enough faith to stand on water?" And I'm going to tell you, I think the fear was I was going to make it to Jesus. And then what was I going to do? How was I going to be? Was I going to be human anymore? Was I not going to be the same Diane? What would I have to leave behind? It was all these questions that I had. And so sometimes our fear of what will be after we make certain connections is what stops us from making those connections. It stops us from walking on water, metaphorically, of course, but it stops us because we don't know what that success will look like. We don't know how it's going to change us. We don't know what demands it's going to put on our lives. What And when I say demands, what are people going to expect from you? Will you have to keep doing it? And they expect you to walk on water all the time? What is it? Will you not be seen as somebody human? Will people start to want to pull things out of you and draw from you all the time? Isn't that draining? Doesn't that sound draining? Who wants that? And so there are a lot of questions that I had to ask myself. One of the things, and I mentioned this before, that I am a bit of an empath. And so when I feel things, I feel them very deeply. I can sense emotions from people. I can feel changes in the atmosphere. When certain people walk in a room, I experience all those things. They are real for me. I don't know about you, but they're real for me. I do experience those things. And so sometimes I don't want people. I don't want to be around people. I don't want to know no new people. I just don't want to do it. Okay. And so for me, that walking on water would be exposing myself to more people like I'm doing right now. This is not easy. This is not easy for me. And so I ask you, what would it be like for you to walk on water and have a little talk with Jesus? What would that be? What would Jesus imagine what Jesus would ask you? What would the conversation be like? That was an awesome thing for me because it revealed some things I had, some fears that I didn't realize I really had. I didn't realize I had them. And so, and now I find myself pushing myself to do more things that are uncomfortable to me, like what I'm doing now, talking to you all. It's uncomfortable as heck. Ooh, it is uncomfortable, but I'm doing it. And I'm doing it because I have to do it. It is part of my purpose, it is part of my gifting, and not doing it is kind of like being disobedient. Well, it is being disobedient. And so I have been looking at the things that I was taught in terms of my faith. And one of the things I was taught was to question. I wasn't taught, I'm Presbyterian, and I know you don't know a lot of Black Presbyterians, but I am one of the, few. Um, well, it's more than that now, but I am Presbyterian, have been since birth. And so I've gone to other churches. I was in a Baptist church for over 10 years, really loved the church, loved the congregation, loved the pastor, but somehow or another, I didn't fit in for some reason. Um, and as I'm looking at my experiences in other denominations and in a denomination I am in, I realize what's really important to me is having agency. I just don't want a religion where I can hide into the power of God and not exercise the power that I have been given by God. You understand this? I'm telling you, not that I think I'm all powerful, but I know that God has given me a measure of power, and I'm like, why aren't I? Why am I not using that power? Why are you not using it? What gifts have you received that you haven't been using because somebody told you that you think too much of yourself, or that's not for you, or that's not how we're supposed to be with God? You got to humble yourself. And when they mean that, they mean small. Make yourself small. And we are not big. When you think about the whole entire universe, we're not that big. We really aren't. We are very small. But we have powerful gifts that we can exercise and use. We have a powerful purpose that we were given before God laid the stars in the sky. All those millions of stars. And God had a purpose for little old me. And one of the things I really want to do is live out that purpose. And it's always evolving, and I'm always evolving. And so, no matter how old I get, as long as I'm in my right mind, I'm going to keep doing the things that I believe I'm supposed to be doing. And so, I ask you, what are you supposed to be doing? What are the things that God has opened up the door for you that maybe you didn't, I don't know, you didn't think that you could really do it, or someone told you that, oh, that, people like us don't do things like that. I think I told you guys when I wanted to become a massage therapist, and my mother said, oh, I wouldn't do that if I were you. You're not me. You're not me. And I'm going to do it because this is something I desire to learn how to do. And I did it very successfully for like 10 years until arthritis started getting in these hands. But anyway, so what is it if we would expand our faith to where we're survival is not the destination? We're not believing just to survive, but we are living a thriver's theology. And I'm not trying to blaspheme the church. I don't get in, believe me, and we have a lot of rules in Presbyterian church, but I don't get into church dogma or doctrines. Yeah, there's some things I do hold true that I cling to, and there are other things that I don't. But I was taught that it's okay to question. You don't have to accept everything blindly just because the pastor said so. And I think that's why I kind of, moved away from the Baptist tradition because it felt like everyone was following what the pastor said, and sometimes I wasn't following. And so I felt like a fish out of water at times. So I went back to the Presbyterian church where I can question, where I can read books other than the Bible. Um, and not feel so limited or feel like I have to be less than myself. I want to be my whole self, my whole being. And I would advise you to do that too. And there are some things that I believe we embody in terms of the gifts that we have been given to use, the skills, the talents that we have, the raw talents that, you need to develop, but you were given those things at birth. There's always going to be something special about you that people notice. And they say, wow, you're so good at that. You were made for that. Oh, that's perfect for you. You're made for that. Because that's the gift that God has given you. So, how do you take that and use it? Use it for the glory of God, for the glory of humanity, to help people, to be an instrument or a tool of peace and love. How do you use that? Um, and so I felt like maybe for a while I've just been so caught up in looking to the hills from whence come my help that I did not realize that God had given me some wonderful, wonderful things that I can use to help myself. And so there's a level of empowerment that we get from God's word that I think that we don't always focus on enough. Um, we focus on the humility, we focus on the submission, we focus on a lot of other things when that's just a small part of our relationship with God. It's not all of it. And what I'm not talking about is prosperity. Okay. I'm not talking about a prosperity um, theology. I'm talking about because that's about accumulating thing. That's more a little more transactional. I'm talking about having a relationship with the divine that elevates you and helps you grow more divine each day. If we are to overcome flesh, then that means we're living from a spirit. And when you live from your spirit self, you are more and more divine. And for some reason, that seems not 100% achievable, but it is something we strive for. And so, again, as I have gotten older, it is more important than ever for me to live out the example of Christ. And I got a lot I'm working on, baby, because I ain't, forgiveness is a big one. I can forgive because I understand it's a gift that I give myself. But, I'm a Scorpio, so I don't forget squat. Okay, and my cutoff game is real good because I don't do toxicity at no point, and I don't think being more Christ-like you have to put up with toxic people. I think Christ tolerated them very nicely, but even Christ turned tables. You know what I mean? So there's a level to everything, and I think it's okay to have some righteous indignation at things that are going on when they're not right, when someone is not treating you fairly, when there is injustice. Yes, there is some righteous indignation that we can have and should have. Um, anyway, so I feel very much that we should be honoring our ancestors and the way we have learned to survive because God knows it has gotten us through 400 years of America, 400 years of not being seen, 400 years of not being protected, 400 years of basically having somebody's foot on your neck. We've survived it. And I would also say we are even thriving. But I wonder how much of that we recognize in our faith. How much of it do we celebrate in our faith? And could there be, if we would acknowledge it, if we paid attention to it, if we could name what it is that helps us to thrive, what more could we do? What more could we give our children as an example of how to live out their faith? I'm not talking about using faith, I'm talking about living it out to embody your faith. Um, and so I'm not putting down the lessons of our forefathers and foremothers, because Lord knows they have helped me. When there are struggles in my life, I know how to get down on my knees. When there are situations that occur that I know I can't do anything about, I know how to call on divine intervention. I know how to seek. I know how to knock. I know how to find find the treasures of God. I know how to do that. But I also want to know how to grow and elevate to become more of what God intends for me to do. And so, how do you do that? Um, and so, for me, what I've been working with this idea that, you know, there in our lives there are things that happen that causes harm, and when there's things that cause harm, you end up with hurt. Now, usually people cause harm when they are trying to make you small, break you, destroy you, or negate your existence. And really, I think that when we spend our time not getting back, but healing, when we spend our time healing, that is the one sure way to reverse what harm was trying to do. Harm tries to hinder you, but healing is what allows you to get over. Healing is what allows you not just to survive, but to thrive. Healing makes you grow bigger. It helps you elevate above the situation to become better and not broken. So, how do we heal? And people have a lot of different ways they do this. We have often healed in community. That's why like therapy groups are good. They have NA and AA, and they got every kind of A you could want to go to. Even for, I remember I tried to Overeaters Anonymous one time, and I left out of there. I said, okay, I don't think I'm there yet. I don't think I'm quite there yet. So I went to try another way to deal with my eating. And still, even in that journey, it's just now that I'm actually progressing and actually able to be on that journey and be successful with it. So more on that later. So what does it look like to not just survive in your faith? And I so I know sometimes when you have problems in your life and you go, Lord, just help me get through this. Help me find a way to deal with this. Um, and so we ask for coping, and maybe we should be asking for healing. We ask sometimes for the endurance to get through something instead of the wholeness to get over it or past it. Um, we ask for the strength to keep going instead of asking for the joy to hold on to our hope as we go through it. You see what I'm saying? You see the difference there? And those little differences, they're just subtle little things. They seem to be subtle little things, but they're really major in the way of faith. I just don't need to endure if I can have some joy while I'm going through. Isn't that a different kind of experience when you have joy, even though there's some things that are difficult? When you start asking for healing instead of coping mechanisms, because sometimes them things break down. Because, baby, there's sometimes when I can act like a whole nother person. And even my husband says, wow, I ain't imagine you could do that. It's like, yeah, it's not a part of me I like to show, but sometimes all that coping stuff, it's not working for you because you start to feel like people are taking advantage of you and it's just not working. And so the coping, the enduring, the just keep the strength to keep going and keep moving, we call that faith. And yes, there's a part of that. But what if God has more for you than just making it through? What if survival wasn't the destination that you were meant to arrive at? So I've been thinking about, how this looks for us when we are afraid to want more, afraid to ask God for more, afraid that we're being greedy if we ask for it, or we're being ungrateful because we're not satisfied with what we have. And when I say more, I'm not just saying, oh, I need more money. Well, maybe you do. And maybe that is what you need to ask for. Lord, I need a job that's going to pay me enough money, pay me my worth. And I don't think there's nothing wrong with that, getting paid your worth. Um, and not just asking God, but also doing the work along with it. Faith without works is dead. Um, and so, yeah, how about it's not just asking for energy to get through the week or just enough peace to sleep at night, but I want all the peace. I want peace throughout the week. I want peace throughout my day. I want all the peace. I want that kind of peace that can't be disturbed. I want that kind of peace that repels anything that's not of peace. That's what kind of peace I want. I want peace to surround me so much it's like I got a force field. And anything that's negative just gets flicked off of me. It just bounces off. It just goes away because it can't even deal with the force of peace that's around me. I want Satan to say, we ain't messing with her. That's what kind of faith I'm talking about. Not that just begging, Lord Jesus, please, Lord, if it be in your will, let me. I'm talking about the power of God being present in your life, being responsibly held in your life. Not so you can amass power and fame and fortune, but that you can live your life fully and largely. I'm about to send my singing bowl over the edge. And so, what does that feel like for you? How does that sound when I say that? Because I know that maybe some people that, come from different thought and, you have a different way of holding your faith, and that's fine because we all have different ways of holding our faith. We really do. And as I tell people, you it's hard to say this is the absolute truth and this is the absolute thing you have to do and you have to do it this way. Um, yeah, those people who say that to me have never convinced me that I want to know their God. And that's just me. You can call it whatever you want. However you want to point the fingers at me and tell me I'm going to hell. Okay, I'm good with that. But I will stand in front of God with the beliefs that I have, believing that I did the best that I knew how in order to live my life to be a reflection of God, of Christ. Okay. Anyway, so let's get back to this thriving theology. Um, so there is an invitation to me. That was the invitation when Jesus said, "Truly, very truly, I tell you, whoever believes in me will do the works I have been doing, and they will do even greater things than these." Now, somebody told me, "Oh, well, Jesus just meant the number of things that you do," and I said, "I don't know. Greater things to me, I didn't sound like it was just numerical. It sounded like we would have the ability to do a lot more than that. Um, not just survival things, not just enough things, but greater things, things that transform lives, things that bring about peace, things that lift up love, things that make people believe in the possibilities of the beloved community. That's a those are greater things. Um, Yeah. So, what do you all think about that? I would love to hear somebody share their ideas. Maybe you can comment on YouTube or Instagram or any of the platforms that you're watching this on. Have you ever thought that there was something missing? Have you ever felt like there was something greater that you were looking for that you really were not getting, but was afraid to say? Because I've been in church and was afraid to say that I wasn't getting anything. I have. That's why I was going to become Buddhist. Because it looked like folks was getting a lot of stuff. And I had a sorority sister who is Buddhist, and I met some of her friends, and I just thought that you know they were such we're experiencing such peace, even in the midst of traumatic things that have occurred in their lives. And so I felt like maybe that was the way I should go because I'm not getting nothing out of these folks. And I was at the time attending a black church. It was not Presbyterian, but it was another mainline denomination, and I just wasn't getting anything out of it any longer. I needed more. As you grow, sometimes you do need something different. You do need something more. And I find that I'm not going to say just I'm not trying to put down Baptist churches or anything like that. I don't want to put down anybody's faith. I don't care what faith you are. I don't put people's faith down. Um, so, but and I do have Baptist ministers that I listen to that I just absolutely love. Um, and so please know that I'm not saying that. But when I hear something that my spirit responds to, and then I know that that's for me. And so I wasn't getting it. Started meditating. I never did chant. I just meditated every Sunday at 11 o'clock. I'll talk about a church girl. And but it was in that meditation that I met God. It was in that meditation that my walk changed. I wasn't in community. I was home by myself, and that's when I went to started going to Bible study with my friend. This church had it at lunchtime, and I would go because I wasn't working at the time. It was school. I was working in school, and it was summertime, so I started going. And baby, I just heard the word completely different. I had new meaning to it for me. Um, and so that changed the way that I walked. That changed a whole lot until I started feeling like I had no agency. And then I left. Um, and so, yeah, so I found agency in the Presbyterian Church and a lot of other things, a lot more possibilities, a lot more doors opening, and they did not open easily. Um, some were prayed down, prayed, open, and some were kicked open, but I'm still standing. So let's just say that. And so these higher things, these greater things come with elevation. They come with a different walk. They come with hearing the word differently. You can hear the same word over and over, but at some point you need to hear something else that you never heard in it. Something else. I preached about Nicodemus, and I didn't realize, and I just started looking at Nicodemus differently. He's not just a leader that came to talk to Jesus at night, but he had a role in Jesus's life. And there's three parts of the gospel where he's talked about. Um, it was the one when he went to Jesus in the cover of night so that nobody could see him going to talk to Jesus. Then the other was when they were ready to prosecute Jesus. They wanted him arrested and all this condemned, and he said, "But our own doctrine, our own religion says that a man should have a trial. You know, that he should have an opportunity to present his side of things." And so he spoke up and advocated for Jesus in that part. And the last time that he honored Christ was when he went to prepare Christ's body for with he got all these expensive herbs and things and went to prepare his body for burial. And that was him offering worship to Christ. And so I started looking at him completely different. I heard the story with new ears. I can understand how someone who maybe was moved or shaken in a way that they wanted to make sense of what Christ was saying went to talk. It didn't say that he stopped being Jewish, he stopped going to temple, didn't say any of those things. But he reverenced Christ because he understood that there was something about Christ. It was something different, that Christ walked with God, even if he didn't believe that Christ was God. And so I'm wondering, has your faith been 100% for you? Has there ever been any longing or wondering about something else or something feeling quite incomplete? I'm exploring this idea more. I have been reading more about it. I've been looking at some womanist theologians to see how they talk about agency of women, and because in the Bible, women are treated like with any great importance. It's funny because I remember I took a class in it was called God and Politics. So after the first election of Donald Trump, that current person that is president, his first election, my class was offering up the word in chapel for that. It was the day after the election. And so we had the prodigal son. That's what we were preaching from. And there was a three-part sermon. So there was three people. Each one of us gave a different perspective. And I said I felt like the mother of the prodigal son. And everybody's looking at each other. I said, I see how you looking at each other. You said, what mother? You know that boy had a mother. You know you had a mother. She wasn't important enough to be mentioned. She was just some back scene figure, but she was his mother. She had a voice. You know she was not happy about him letting that boy leave their house like that. And so I was going on and on. Everybody was like, oh yeah, we don't even think he had a mother, because that's how insignificant, and that's how I felt. Like my vote was insignificant, my voice was insignificant, and nobody was hearing that this man was no good for president, and didn't hear it the second time either. But anyway, I digress. If you want to talk about politics, well, we got a show for you. And yeah, so I have been looking at and studying on my own just liberation theology and womenist theologians to find and piece together this theology that I find myself embracing and holding on to. And I want my granddaughter to know and my children to know. And I don't know if they'll know it because I don't know if they'll accept it. The God that they have been raised with and taught. And I remember, so this woman said, I don't want you to take away Jesus, my God, as I've seen my God. My God has always been my father. And as a child who didn't grow up with a father in the home, I needed God to be my father, and God was my father. And don't tell me I can't think about God as a male because I need that's the God that has helped me and brought me to where I am today. I'm not trying to take away your father. But I open up my mind and realize that God is not just a father, but a mother as well. And so sometimes it is the feminine side of God that I speak to. And sometimes it's the masculine part of God that I speak to. But I know God is bigger than anything that we can imagine and bigger than anything that we can ever think about. And so I don't want to put God in a box, boxed in by my small imagination and my limited thinking. So I don't want to do that. I want a bigger God. I want a whole God. I want a healing God. I want a God of liberation because I'm freedom. I love freedom. And I want to be free and whole. I don't want to be held back by trauma. I don't want to be a prisoner of harm. I don't want to be any of those things. I don't want to be scratching and surviving. I don't want to be. My ancestors didn't do all that for me to still be doing it. And so I'm going to close out in a few minutes, but I want you to think about that. Do you need a bigger faith? Do you need to stretch your imagination a little bit more as to what you feel you can be with God's assistance? With your relationship with God? Is there something else you can be? Is there something more that's out there for you? And so, as a proponent of Black Girl Magic, because I have some Black Girl Magic, I don't want harm to steal my magic. And so, if healing is going to be the elixir, then I'm going to heal. I'm going to heal in my prayer life. I'm going to heal in my conversations with my friends and my sisters. I'm going to heal in the music that I listen to, in the books that I read. I'm going to heal in every aspect of my life I can find and hold on to and have control of. And when I say control, I mean authority. I want to have authority in my life. Authority in the ways that I can make decisions about who I want to be and be that. And how I want to live and how I wish to be treated and spoken to. And the character of the people that are around me. I want to have the peace that surpasses all understanding. And if you don't understand it, and I don't know what to tell you, but that was granted to us. That is something that we can have. But we worry and are anxious. I want the faith that gives me that peace. I want to achieve that level of peace. That people say, how the heck? This woman's been through some stuff. But she's always gentle, always loving, always peaceful, always pleasant. That's, for me, that's perfect peace. And I haven't gotten there yet, and I want it. So I'm shifting in my theology so that I can embrace it. Because I believe that it can be achieved and I want it. And so I ask, what do you want out of your faith? What do you need out of your faith? What is it you need to release? What is it that you need to embrace? Those are questions you can ask yourself for this upcoming week. So I plan on having some guests. Um, for the next 3 weeks. I don't know which order I'm going to have them in, but there are going to be some great folks coming up, and we'll be having some interesting conversation. And I'm even going to bring a male voice in because I believe that, last week, I think it was, or a couple of weeks ago, we had a caller who was male, and I realized, oh, we have men listening. And so the content I'm giving you is not just for women. I just feel like that is my calling to speak to women. And so, but if there's some brothers listening, I want to have some male voices on here so we can get another perspective. Because sometimes as women, we need to hear the male's perspective because we think differently, we experience things differently. And so I want to talk about that, and I want men to know that we're not so close that we cannot have men to come here and talk to women as well. From their perspective, we're not here to be mansplained. That's not going to happen. We're not here for any other thing, but we just sometimes need to hear their voices and their perspectives and where they're coming from. And some of these, the particular gentleman I'm talking about is, pretty versed in human behavior and very well trained in, even mental health issues and things of that nature. He is a counselor and someone that I have come to respect. And so I want to bring him on and allow you to talk. And we have some other voices too. We have a Latino woman that I want to bring on who is very powerful and a dynamic woman. We're going to talk about her book. So look forward, join me back here in the next 3 weeks, and we're going to be excited. Maybe have one of y'all's pastors on. So I want you to be blessed. I have talked myself into I'm ready to go take a nap now. So I'm going to leave you here. I have enjoyed talking to you. We did not have a commercial break today, so I got to talk 45 minutes straight. Well, 47 now, 47 minutes straight, and it's been great. So I hope that I sparked some conversations that you might have this week with some of your friends, especially your church friends. And maybe you can get with me and contact me through email and just, dabutts at ajoydivine.com. And let us have some conversations, okay? Like I said, I'm not here to tell you what's wrong or right with what you believe. That's up between you and God, okay? But I am here to challenge you to just explore and think about expanding your faith to so that we can be better people, and that the idea of the beloved kingdom and the kingdom of the beloved community and the kingdom of God being right here, right now, will be realized. Amen. Okay. Goodbye. I love you. There's nothing you can do about it. And please know that I will be thinking of some more wonderful topics for you all. Just God bless. Take care and be kind to yourself. Okay. Love you. Bye bye.